This is BRICS Global Television Network's Daily Roundup. We begin with the headlines. Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi laid to rest. Former US President Donald Trump caught out in a lie. South Africa's post office crisis. And the China-USA TikTok tussle continues. Hello, I'm Juliet Newell. Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi has been laid to rest, concluding days of funeral rites. He died in a helicopter crash on Sunday on his way back from the border with Azerbaijan to Tabriz after attending the inauguration of a dam. Iran's foreign minister and 6 others lost their lives, as well as the pilot. Throngs of mourners bid farewell to Raisi in his hometown Mashhad before joining processions in several cities. The country's 5 days of mourning conclude today, after which authorities, including acting President Mohammad Mokhber, will turn their attention to organizing an election to select a new president. This has been scheduled for June the 28th. Raisi was widely expected to assume the position of supreme leader after Ayatollah al-Khamenei. On Wednesday, Khamenei led prayers in Tehran for the deceased president and solemnly paid homage to the 8 individuals who lost their lives in the accident, kneeling before their coffins. Among the victims was Foreign Minister Hussein Amir Abdullahian, whose burial took place on Thursday at the shrine of Shah Abdul Azim, south of the capital. Prior to the burial, Iranian officials and foreign dignitaries gathered in Tehran to honor the late diplomat in a ceremony. China says it hopes the International Criminal Court will maintain an objective stance after the court's prosecutors sought arrest warrants for leaders from Israel and Hamas, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Prosecutor Karim Khan's asked for arrest warrants to be issued for alleged war crimes committed by top Israeli and Hamas leaders during the conflict. Beijing's emphasized the international consensus calling for an immediate end to the Gaza conflict and the alleviation of the humanitarian crisis faced by the Palestinian people. China is urging the ICC to uphold impartiality and exercise its powers in accordance with the law, denouncing the collective punishment of Palestinians. Israel criticized the ICC's demand targeting Netanyahu and Gallant, while Hamas strongly condemned the move to arrest some of its leaders. China's historical support for the Palestinian cause and advocacy for a 2-state solution align with President Xi Jinping's call for an international peace conference to resolve the conflict. In Russia, Moscow's criticized what it calls hothead US lawmakers after calls emerged for Ukraine to use donated American weaponry within Russian territory. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov condemned these calls as irresponsible, with potentially dangerous consequences. He reiterated Moscow's stance that international weapons supplies wouldn't alter the conflict outcome, reaffirming Russia's commitment to its objectives. The situation's compounded by Ukraine's regular border strikes into Russia, particularly targeting the Belgorod region, viewed by Ukraine as just retaliation for attacks on its own territory. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin's justified his army's offensive in the northeastern Kharkiv region as establishing a buffer zone against Ukrainian assaults on Russian border villages. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, during a recent visit to Kiev, clarified that while the U.S. hasn't encouraged strikes beyond Ukraine's borders, ultimately, Ukraine must determine its own war strategies. British Foreign Secretary David Cameron echoed this sentiment during his visit to Ukraine, affirming Kiev's right to retaliate against Russia. Staying in Russia, Moscow has refuted holding discussions with former President Donald Trump regarding the release of imprisoned U.S. journalist Evan Gershkovich. This after Trump claimed he would swiftly secure the release of the journalist should he win the U.S. presidential election. Trump, known for his admiration of Russian President Vladimir Putin and skepticism towards the support for Ukraine, asserted that Putin would release Gershkovich for him, emphasizing it wouldn't happen for anyone else. He posted a message on his Truth Social platform saying, Evan Gershkovich, the reporter from the Wall Street Journal, who's being held by Russia, will be released almost immediately after the elections, but definitely before I assume office. Trump also said that the United States wouldn't pay anything, likely referring to President Biden's deal with Iran last year, which involved the transfer of frozen Iranian oil revenue by South Korea to secure the release of Americans. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov has denied any contact with Trump on the matter, stressing the necessity of secrecy for effective US-Russian communications regarding incarcerated individuals. Gershkovich, 32 years old, has been detained in Moscow's notorious Lefortovo prison for over a year, arrested during a reported trip to Russia. He faces spying charges, marking the first arrest of a Western journalist by Moscow on such accusations since the Soviet era. The journalist, his employer and the US government vehemently denied the accusations. In South Africa, the South African Post Office is in crisis. Hundreds of branches have closed and it's becoming increasingly difficult to send a letter or parcel the good old-fashioned way. More and more South Africans are relying on courier services. But what about those who simply cannot afford to use these services or are in rural or underserviced areas? Our BGTN correspondent, Lebo Masika, takes a look at the ever-crumbling state of the country's postal system.
In the digital age, the traditional mail system may seem outdated to some, but for many South Africans, it's still a vital lifeline. Yet, in recent months, the country's postal service has been facing an unprecedented crisis.
In the last 4 years, more than 400 post office branches have closed down throughout South Africa. What has led to the decline of our post office systems? We're in the heart of Johannesburg, in Doornfontein. As we tell the story, we'll find out how the ordinary citizen is coping. What next for the South African post office system?
Our team visited a suburb in Johannesburg, Parkview, and the views of the post office services vary.
Found staff very friendly and nice experience. And there wasn't a long queue or anything like that.
Khona abakokana abo 80 90 bakwazi lapho kusebenzisa bank account abakwazi yabona into engishoyo bele maye bafuna bayosebenzisa bank account bema ATM kanti mekuride mabasebenzise post office for ukuthi bakhiphe imali zabo zesasa.
I use it for getting the license disc on my car, and one uses a postnet and things like that for parcels.
The Democratic Postal and Communications Union, DEPACU, argues that solutions require time and substantial investment.
There are other players who are coming into the industry and they're fast-tracking how they do things. For an example, I'll mention the likes of Postnet. How do you think they're getting it right?
An issue of technology. Post office has one major advantage in an environment in terms of spread of many offices nationally. It even beat many banks and other institutions. But we have failed to take an advantage of that by ensuring that we remain the only reliable customer service center by not investing in important infrastructure and technological issues in terms of ensuring that any change that comes at post office, at least we are aligned with the requirement of industry.
The root of the issue lies in years of neglect and mismanagement. What we need is a long-term strategy that not only addresses immediate problems, but also lays the groundwork for a resilient postal system in the future. Lebo Masike, BGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
And India plans to send 4 tigers to Cambodia this year in a significant effort to revive the country's dwindling big cat population. Cambodia's once thriving Indo-Chinese tiger population has suffered from rampant poaching, leading to their functional extinction in 2016. The incoming tigers, set for release into a designated 90-hectare forest area within a wildlife sanctuary in the Cardamom forest, will first undergo acclimatization. Indian officials emphasize the need for adequate prey and security against poaching before the tigers are dispatched. If successful, this will mark the world's first translocation project for tigers, described as a historic endeavour. Both Cambodia's Environment Ministry and Wildlife Alliance expressed confidence in the project's preparations, ensuring a safe habitat for the tigers through extensive measures like ranger stations and monitoring devices. More tiger imports are planned over the next 5 years if the initiative proves successful, aiming to counter the devastating impact of deforestation and poaching on tiger populations in Asia. Up next, BRICS Plus Business News.
Round 3. Let's go. Right hand on 3 for super.
Hi, I'm Ava. I think you should watch BGTN TV because it's the best.
Gangster Museum and Township Tours takes us on a transformative journey alongside reformed gangsters, showcasing the remarkable evolution from purveyors of drugs and violence to architects of captivating tourist attraction.
We're primarily focused on alleviating gangsterism, so we take people around the townships.
Russian President Vladimir Putin signed a decree authorizing the seizure of assets within Russia owned by the United States, its citizens and companies as a means of compensating those affected by Western sanctions against Moscow following Moscow's deployment of troops into Ukraine in February 2022. Western powers froze approximately $300 billion of Russian financial assets, primarily targeting its central bank reserves. In a recent development, the US Congress passed legislation allowing President Joe Biden to utilize frozen Russian assets within the United States to establish a special fund in support of Ukraine. Under the Russian decree, entities and individuals in Russia impacted by sanctions will have the opportunity to seek compensation from the Russian government. This compensation would involve assets owned by US entities, such as real estate, businesses, bank accounts, or shares situated in Russia. The ongoing conflicts prompted numerous Western companies to exit the Russian market. Those that remain or are in the process of finalizing sales of their Russian holdings now face the risk of asset seizures. The asset freezes have fueled mutual accusations between Moscow and Western capitals regarding property appropriation. Over the past 2 years, Russia has taken control of several Western-owned businesses under temporary state management, actions criticized by Western leaders and companies as nationalization. In Europe, where a significant portion of the frozen Russian assets is located, pressures mounting to determine how these resources can best support Ukraine. On Thursday, US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen urged the G7 to adopt a more ambitious approach in utilizing these funds to aid Kyiv. The TikTok tussle between the United States and China, where the social media is owned by ByteDance, continues. Concerned about foreign influence during important election years in multiple countries, TikTok is implementing restrictions on state-backed media. This decision follows an ultimatum from the United States urging TikTok to divest from its Chinese owners, ByteDance, or potentially face a ban in the United States market due to fears of manipulation. Under TikTok's new policy, state-affiliated media attempting to engage with audiences outside their home country on current global events and affairs will be excluded from the platform's personalized For You feed. Additionally, these accounts will be prohibited from advertising on TikTok beyond their primary country of affiliation. TikTok defines state-affiliated media as those subject to government control or influence over their editorial output or decision-making processes. The platform also disclosed that it identified and disrupted 15 influence operations and 3,001 associate accounts in the first 4 months of 2024. These operations were primarily aimed at influencing political discourse, including election-related discussions. For instance, TikTok cited disruptions of a network targeting Indonesian voters ahead of their presidential elections, and another spreading narratives about domestic politics in Britain. And some good news for South Africa's tourism sector. The country has been ranked the highest in the African region in the 2024 Travel and Tourism Development Index. The index was compiled by the World Economic Forum. South Africa's tourism sector, like most other countries, was hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic. In 2019, pre-pandemic contribution to GDP was 3.7%. This figure dropped to 2.1% in 2020 and 2.3% the following year. The number is slowly edging up again. The sector contributed 3.5% to GDP in 2022. Achieving the #1 spot in Africa in the 2024 Travel and Tourism Development Index is certainly good news and could give the sector a welcome boost. BGTN correspondent Mzileni has more.
The Travel and Tourism Development Index released by the World Bank has ranked South Africa 55th among 119 countries and #1 on the African continent. In its second edition of the index that measures economies and policies that enable sustainable and resilient development of travel and tourism sector, South Africa's Tourism Minister Patricia de Lille attributed the robust growth over the past year to partnerships and collaborative efforts with the private sector.
They invested in an app called Secura app that any visitor can download when they arrive in the country. That app gives them access to, for instance, if there's an attack and at the press of a button, they can get a response from over 300 private security companies, including the police, because the safety of both South Africans and our visitors is with the police. But we also established at the 31st of August last year an operations center in Sandton, where the app is monitored on a 24-hour basis.
In 2023, the Tourism Ministry reported a total of 6.4 million visitors from the African continent traveling to South Africa, resulting in a significant increase of 48.9% compared to 2022. In the first quarter of 2024, South Africa has already welcomed 2.4 million international tourists, representing a notable 15.4% increase year-on-year. Mzileni, BGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
For many, dance in Africa is a rich cultural expression, serving various purposes like entertainment and religious rituals. However, over thousands of years, dance in Africa has been used as a secret way to communicate, sometimes during birth and death, frequently to each other, and at times directly to the gods.
Every white cross represents a farmer who has been murdered. Some call these the forgotten farm murders.
Coming soon on BRICS Global Television.
Now, can your program be copied overseas, or is it exclusively designed for South Africa's society?
So it can definitely be replicated. We've replicated it in businesses even, and we've used it in after-school programs that are not in school specifically. So we've already seen that it works in different contexts, and we'd love to take it overseas, because obviously a few tweaks here and there, if needed, can be made. But the point is the basic model is something that anyone can use.
Hello, I'm Yolanda Pondo with your BRICS Plus Sports News. Special Olympics UAE's inaugural UAE Games is underway. The Games involve over 1,000 athletes with intellectual and developmental disabilities, along with students of determination, unified partners, coaches, and technical and supervisory teams. The UAE Games features two main events: the Unified Schools UAE Games, including football and badminton for boys and girls across various age groups, which was held earlier this week, and the UAE Games for People of Determination's clubs and centres is coming up from June the 7th to the 10th, encompassing 6 sports: badminton, basketball, bowling, football, esports and powerlifting. This event will engage over 600 athletes along with their coaches and support teams. Both events will be hosted at the Abu Dhabi National Exhibition Centre. Organised in collaboration with various sports federations and sports councils, the UAE Games aligns with the enduring legacy of the Special Olympics World Games Abu Dhabi 2019. In Olympic Games Paris 2024 news, in France, police have preemptively arrested and charged a 26-year-old man before the Olympic torch relay in Bordeaux on Thursday, suspecting a planned attack. Authorities have revealed the man had planned on committing violence during the event. The suspect, identified as Alex G., was detained after online extremism alerts referencing a 2014 California mass shooting. Charged with criminal conspiracy, Alex G. appeared before a magistrate and was released pending trial under judicial control. Prosecutors contested this decision, seeking remand in custody. Despite admitting to contemplating an attack, no direct link to the Olympic torch has been established. The Paris 2024 Olympic Games take place from Friday the 26th of July to Sunday the 11th of August. For more BRICS Plus sports news, check out our social media and our website.
Well, here we have it. Time to turn things around. You caught the taxi and watched the money drain out of your account. Now we're going to pay you if you are lucky enough to catch our taxi. Small problem. You've got to know a few things about BRICS. No, not the stuff you build your house with. Welcome to the BRICS on Wheels show.
South African townships have had a significant influence on the sound of music. Townships, which were racially segregated areas during apartheid, were hubs of creativity and cultural expression.
You know, I wrote a simple love song which was called You're So Good To Me, and it suddenly became this enormous hit on Ukhozi FM, which is a Zulu vernacular station. There were state-owned stations in those days. Radio Zulu played isiZulu, Radio Xhosa played isiXhosa. This is how the state divided us. You know, what we heard was divided.
Strangely, you know, what I do is not about me. It doesn't belong to me. and they are conduit for it. So if it serves the interests of those who are all over the world, that would be my gift. The last.
Radio DJs have historically played a significant role in shaping the music industry and the sound of popular music.
I think bubblegum really found its footing and stuck to the ears of listeners in the 80s.
And just a reminder of BGTN's 22 Seconds Anti-Trafficking campaign. It aims to shed light on the alarming reality that one person is trafficked every 22 seconds somewhere in the world. Running until June the 3rd, this initiative seeks to raise awareness and inspire action to combat human trafficking.
"22 Seconds came about. I've been working on human trafficking stories recently. I've been doing documentaries. It was just like, are we doing enough? It was a campaign that was, let's challenge ourselves, let's get it out there, let's try and reach as much people as possible.
130 people are trafficked all around the world per hour. So every 22 seconds, someone is being trafficked. 22 seconds could be your walk from a school gate inside the school. It could be your walk from your house to the bus station. It's just a short distance.
This campaign is a campaign that is set to raise awareness, to show the severity of this crime that's happening around us. I'm hoping that it will get society to speak about it. It will get communities, governments and organizations to come together and tackle this. I'm hoping that it will get the young girl, the young boy to understand the dangers that we live around.
And we're speaking to schools so that children are also aware of this. Teachers are aware, because also teachers play a vital role into seeing kids that they teach that this child was not like this. The campaign is running for a month, but that's not where our work will end. We will continue campaigning and we will continue moving towards our goal of getting 22 million signatures.
You can share the campaign firstly on social media using the hashtags 22 seconds not for sale, hashtag 22 seconds empower change, because we are empowering change. Please sign the petition. The whole idea also behind the petition is that once we reach 22 million signatures, we will take it to the UN.
It is up to us to raise awareness and show human trafficking that it has no place in our society.
To sign the petition, please go to our website. And we'll be back tomorrow with the latest BRICS news. Until then, you can visit our website and social media for updates.